Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So I was asked this question by a student regarding the following section in the ayah. Hum lil kufri yawma idhin aqrabu minhum lil iman. It's not a usual construction, so inshallah I will be going through it in some detail. There will be some aspects which are quite advanced, but inshallah I'll try to explain it as best I can. Now first of all, the background behind this ayah, this is following the Battle of Uhud. And this ayah speaks of the hypocrites. So what happened was, before the battle, a group of hypocrites, about 300 in number, left the Muslims. And as the ayah says, it was said to them, come fight in the way of Allah, or at least defend. They were told to fight with them. And their response was, if we had known there would be fighting, we would have followed you. So this was a very lame excuse. It was an indication of the hypocrisy within them. And Allah mentions this in the following section, where He mentions, Hum lil kufri yawma idhin aqrabu minhum lil iman. So let's look at this section inshallah. So here we have hum, which is the mubtada, and aqrabu, the ism tafdeel, is the khabar. And what we have is, we have 3 jar majroors and 1 dharf mudaf ilayh, and they're all coming as a muta'alliq to aqrabu. So they're all associated to aqrabu. So 4 muta'alliqat, 2 before the ism tafdeel and 2 after. So let's speak first of all about the ism tafdeel aqrabu. So aqrabu can actually be made transitive by 3 particles, or 3 huruf jar. And they are the min, the ila, and the lam. So 3 examples here is Zaydun aqrabu minka, Zaydun aqrabu ilayka, and Zaydun aqrabu laka. Now these will have a different meaning. We could translate them as Zayd is closer to you, but there's a bit more discussion regarding the differences there. So for example here, Zaydun aqrabu minka, Zayd is closer from you. Zaydun aqrabu ilayka, he is closer to you. And ilayka could also have a different meaning as well, that I don't want to get into inshallah. But all these are discussed in advanced books. And this actually aspect is not important regarding this section of the ayah. So I'm just mentioning this, but to get a better understanding of the differences, you need to go to the advanced books of grammar and rhetoric. And for example here, Zaydun aqrabu laka, the lam here denotes possession, or in this case, a relationship. So Zaydun is closer to you in terms of relations to you. So he might be your brother, and so on. Now with the ism tafdeel, there are 2 aspects to it. There's the one who has that particular attribute or action. So for example, aqrabu, here we're talking about qurb, closeness. So for example, we have someone or something that is close, and someone or something that is even closer. And for example, this will be done by bringing another min, and you mention who Zayd is closer to then. So here Zaydun is closer to then, we could say Khalid. So the translation of this would be, Zaydun is closer to Khalid from you. So you're the starting point, minka. Let's say this is you here. Starting from you, Zayd is closer than Khalid. So for example, if we go from you to here, that's where Zayd is, for example. and Khalid is probably around here, let's say. So that's in terms of physical distance. And obviously the context will indicate what we're referring to. In regards to this ayah, we're not talking about something physical, because we're talking about a kufr and iman, which is something in the heart. Let's do another example to explain this a bit further. Okay, so here is an example here. Let's assume this is the masjid, this is Zayd, and this is Umar. It says here, Zaydun aqrabu min al-masjid min Umar. Now this actually can have two different meanings, this particular sentence. The differences are whether the comparison can be made between Zayd and the masjid, or Zayd and Umar. So for example, if you say Zayd aqrabu, Zayd is closer than the masjid. Min Umar. So min Umar would be the jar majroor. It's associated to aqrabu as well, both of them are. But this indicates the start point of the qurb, which is min Umar. So if you go from Umar, we're saying that Zayd is closer than the masjid. So if you go, we find Zayd closer than the masjid. This could be the start point, min al-masjid. So Zayd is closer than Umar from the masjid. It could also mean that as well. So in this case it would be staying from the masjid and saying that Zayd is closer than Umar, which is, if you go from the masjid, Zayd is closer than Umar. Now the Qur'an doesn't leave any ambiguity, and if it does on rare occasions, there's a reason behind it in each and every case. So let's look at the example here. Hum lil kufri yawma idhin aqrabu minhum lil iman. So first of all, it's talking about those hypocrites who left the battlefield, and saying hum, they are. Aqrabu is the khabar. And what's happening here? Here we have a dharf, yawma idhin, the day when. I've spoken about this tanween al-iwad. This is a tanween which actually represents what happened before. So the events that happened before, which is they left the battlefield and they said, you know, if we knew there was fighting, we would have stayed, and so on. So that's what that represents, the day when these events happened. And it says, hum lil kufri, to kufr, or regarding kufr. Here the lam is used, and we said lam denotes a strong relationship, or it's like possessing something, and saying that they are aqrabu, hum aqrabu, they're closer, lil kufr, to disbelief. So the relationship to kufr is aqrab, it's closer on that specific day. And the reason why that particular day is because this was made apparent. And it was the events that happened which exposed their hypocrisy. And the comparison here is made lil iman. So it would be then iman. So there's a then here with the lam. And once again the lam was used and not min. Usually we associate min. Huwa aqrabu min Zayd, or something like that. Min. But lam can also be used. And the reason why lam here was used was to denote their relationship or their connection to iman. So the relationship to kufr was closer than their relationship to iman. And they actually manifested this iman outwardly. And it was only this battle which exposed them. And remember when we said when we have two jar majroors, the same jar majroors, like say the example I showed you, Zaydun aqrabu min al-masjid min Umar. There'll be two different meanings to that, possible meanings. Here, there could be two possible meanings, opposite meanings in fact, because it could have been hum aqrabu lil iman, they're closer to iman than to kufr, and that's just a changing of positions of the prepositional phrases, taqdeem wa ta'khir. So what's happening and what's causing it to only mean that kufr was closer to them is this minhum. You can't translate it, but it's there for a reason, because this would not be mentioned unless the thing before it was mentioned. So what is minhum? From them. And what was from them? It was the kufr, their disbelief. They were hiding their disbelief, but here this ayah is saying it was from them, and it was actually being exposed. It wasn't fihim. Fihim would indicate it's in them, but when we say minhum, it's also apparent from them. Okay, also I want to highlight that we have here specification. The lil kufr has been emphasized, so they are lil kufr and nothing else. Lil kufr. Yawma idhin aqrabu, on that specific day, because it was the day they were exposed. On this specific day, both of those have been emphasized in that they've been put in front. They could be put after this tafdeel, but here it's giving what's known as specification, al-ikhtisas. So there's an emphasis on these points that they are specifically in regards to kufr on that specific day. They are closer to it than to iman, which they had been pretending to have. And what do you notice about the word lil kufr and lil iman? They've actually been separated apart in the structure, as if the iman has been taken away and what is being left is their kufr. SubhanAllah. Okay, now getting back here, there's another point I want to mention, and this is regarding the statement after this section, which is يَقُولُونَ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. They say with their mouths what is not in their hearts. Now obviously when they speak these words, they say it with their mouths. So why was بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ used? And similarly we have another ayah, which is in Surah Al-Fath, يَقُولُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. Here we have the word al-sina, their tongues, rather than their mouths. And both of these words are coming as emphasis, because both the tongue and the mouth is used to speak. And the point of mentioning them, scholars say, is to show how such words can be said with the mouth. And they were both lies. Now, the word choice is very interesting. With this ayah, it talks about from the Bedouins, al-A'rab, those who stayed behind from the battle. They didn't sacrifice for the sake of Allah, and they made an excuse to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They said, our properties and our families have occupied us, so ask forgiveness for us. And Allah says, they say with their tongues what is not within their hearts. So the word tongues was used here. So the tongue actually is a part of the mouth. It's not the whole mouth. Al-sina actually is the part of articulation. And the Qur'an, it's used in a negative context for lying. But to lie in a way that is more, you could say, civil or more appropriate than when afwahihim is used. By using the mouth, it actually shows arrogance, and it's much harsher than al-sina. This ayah, as we spoke about, was regarding the munafiqun, the hypocrites. And they didn't care. They wanted harm to come to the Muslims. So by using afwahihim, actually, it shows their non-concern for the Muslims. And they didn't care. And even the statement that they made was very shallow. it wasn't something that they thought over. They just wanted to leave the Muslims. On the other hand, the other ayah, it was talking about the Arab, the Bedouins, and they were not hypocrites, but they were lacking in Iman. As what is mentioned in the next surah, Surah Al-Hujurat. So there was a lacking of Iman there. They probably didn't want to sacrifice their wealth and their own selves for the sake of Allah. Although they lied, they said this statement in a humble manner. So it was a lie, but it wasn't an arrogant lie. And that's why they actually asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, فَاسْتَغْفِرْ لَنَا, ask forgiveness for us. And so that's the difference there. Okay, so complete lesson. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.